I really love these. I don't know if we got sent 2 of these for free because it was a silent blessing for this logo. But I just don't know how I feel about the logo. You know what I mean? Just a similarity there that just is fishy. Dude, this thing's heavy. It's like that. Right there. So we'll probably end up, I don't know if we're gonna actually use this. This is the Duke episode. I don't wanna put like just an LP9 in here. I wanna be able to use, like this feels really good. This car is like a modern vintage thing, meaning it's at the highest level of off-road performance you can get while still retaining this cabin that's a 1956. It's not a 49. I looked at the title the other day. But I want to, there used to be this really badass, the one thing we never do is when I mention stuff, we never have like the follow-up, a picture of something we talk about, because you're just busy editing and it just doesn't happen. But there used to be this really cool 32 Ford that looked like a little Indy car, and it had like this little roof scoop on it, and it was open wheel, and it was a square tire car. It was sick. I think it was powered by a S2000 motor. The reference there is it was a 32 Ford, and then it had like this insane pedigree of like road car, Indy car, square tire, badass shit on it. And I think this is kind of that same example, but with an off-road, trophy truck mix into it. And, the body, so this is our episode for the week of PRI. So when you watch this in like 3 days or 4 days, this will be in Indianapolis at PRI. It'll be on display with JMR Manufacturing. We want to go into that for a little bit. Let's go into that. The cab is on right now, but all the tubes in here and all the notching and everything that's in here is all done with JMR. JMR, primarily their bender. I've definitely used it at Ryan's shop too. So I've used their bender at least since 2018. I don't know if I had one before that, but that's where I really cut my teeth. Their benders are cost effective and they're effective. They work really good. Electric to hydraulic, no manual shit. This whole car was built with that thing. Obviously we had to use a tubing roller for a lot of it, but the privilege here is that Jim, the owner, reached out to me and wanted to build a relationship, and we're figuring out how we can have a partnership with their product line and representing them. And I think Jim, with his stuff, he's made these components to be used, not just by a professional shop, but also attainable for a garage fab guy. And that's where I cut my teeth. I lived in Laverne in California for many years, and I used to work out of my garage, my 2-car garage. And that's, I learned how to do a lot with a little. And the only difference now is that we have a little more for tooling, not a lot. And so to be able to have the opportunity to represent someone like Jim and his family and his company is huge. One of the things with representing them is bringing this car to PRI to showcase the chassis and showcase their product. So right now we'll do an update, but if you're going to PRI, come check it out. If you need to look at tooling, I always say I'm only going to represent a company or a product that I believe in, and I would never sell my ass just to be endorsed or to get something for free or whatever. And you know, before I even knew who Jim McKenzie was or JMR as a company, I've been using their shit. Our bender is that roached out. You can show it, it's over there. It's dirty, it's greasy. I've had it for 5 years. You know, Evan Weller next door to me, when I didn't have a bender and I first started out, I was using Evans, and Evan had a JMR. You know, Ryan Kibbe had a JMR. So this is a product I've been using forever. And if it's, you know, if you're looking for stuff like that, I'd recommend looking at JMR before you go other places. Other than that, let's do the Willys thing. I briefly watched last episode, so I kind of know where we're at. What we're doing is we're doing a preparation for PRI. Not so much of a hit list as we had for Off-Road Expo. We're just kind of doing something where we get as much done as we can, and that's that. So where we left off last time, we were working on the interior sheet metal. I know we had a provision for the AC over there, so we didn't have the floors in. Floors are in, most of the floors. The footwell area, passenger and driver, not complete. Back wall complete. Sides of the third seat are complete. This is what I want to do for the sheet metal, and this is what we want to continue doing on this level of a tube chassis car. The easy way, and I'm so guilty of this, is building floors in cars. You're like, hell yeah, brother, fucking boom, slap this bad boy in because it's easy to do from the top. What the negative return on investment with that is, do you see how this is? So just imagine if the tin work is on this side and how terrible that is if you go through mud, if you're going through silt, if you're going through a mixture of weather and elements, and then you have to clean in here. Do you ever even get that fully cleaned out? And you do a plethora of this on the entire, this side of the whole car, and then on the underside that actually sees the elements, it's that just doesn't make sense. So I wanted to exercise this technique where we can streamline all the underside and make it count where it does count, because all this is great because now we can put chunks of foam in here. We can put upholstery right over all of this. You know, we can run whatever we need to in here and it's solid. And then on the bottom side, it's completely streamlined. We run hard lines on top of everything. We've already plotted out where all the hard lines need to be. So it just made sense. And when I take you guys under here to look at this, it'll be a really good example of how clean and tidy it makes this thing. Something else to look at, we have our intake manifold. I don't know if that was there last time, but the Hogan's intake manifold, I think we talked about it.
The intake was there, the black piece wasn't.
Okay, so that's a Motion Raceworks 102 with a T-fitting on here going into 3-inch. Those are built, you know, I look at that and I go, man, is 3-inch going to be enough? But those are built for like 3,000 horsepower cars all day. So splitting the volumetric size of that, you know, 2 3s versus 1 4, which is usually what like a big motor wants, it actually checks out to be more. But you can see like the clearance and the design, like the functional design of this is awesome. What's going to happen here is we're going to run intake tubing. It'll probably be 3D printed, and it'll run through here, and it'll run on the exterior portion of the sheet metal here, go out, and it'll go through the body, and it'll go into our jerry can idea where the filter are. You know, each side will have its filter. Then we'll obviously have to have a removable piece in here that kind of closes this out, and then we'll have, you know, the bottom area will not be removable. It'll be typical firewall style stuff, but you know, that packaged out really well. When you get to this side, you'll see like this cutout is finished. That's an extra buffer for the seat. It's a shape change, but it's also like a 3/4 inch tolerance, so we can get carpet in there and it's not just mashed up against the seat. He's quiet. Nothing, I'm just saying you're like a quiet assassin.
Dude.
Are they cold?
No, that hurt.
Oh, why do they hurt?
Fucking like getting in that fucking thing.
Yeah, oh, look at that though. You're almost there.
Almost.
Still a little ridgy.
Yeah.
Look at Colin. Colin's turned into an expert. Expert everything. Almost.
Almost there.
Almost expert everything. All right, look at this thing. I took over on the smaller camera. I have a surprise for you guys with this at the end that I'm gonna let you know. And this camera has a lot to do with it. Yeah. So this is our floor. Beautiful shapes. You know, the bummer with this one is going to be closing all this in with the body, because the chassis is really special and it's the best one we've done. We did the Dakar prototype was the one previous to this, and I think we just naturally progress, and so each one gets a little better. But some areas to look at. This is going to be the area for the AC. This is a Haymaker from Restomod that goes in here. Haymaker S, which is I think a sport version or a smaller version. We're going to do something pretty creative here. There's going to be 8 vents that need to be taken care of here. That means there's 8 ugly hoses that have to go from here to, you know, the front and up here. And we're going to run a bulkhead right here. I'll do this just for you guys. So there's 2 vents that are going to go out the back. We'll talk about in a second. Then we're going to be able to fit, I forget how many we need to have here. You know, I don't know if I don't remember what the layout is, but there'll be a plate here, and there'll be a portion that'll stick out for the hose to get fastened to. And then on the back side of that, we're going to have a pickup, and it's going to be all this. Let me put my cap on my pen. All of this will be hard line coming out, you know, and it'll have to, you know, run through here in an appropriate way. We'll have to dodge some other lines. We have to be very careful on how we're doing the stuff under here. We've left tunnels under here for lines to go through to the back. We have it on both sides, but what's going to happen is some of this will go through the floor here, and it'll come up, you know, it'll come up through, you know, the front of the firewall, and it'll come back and get, you know, a lot of it has to get to here. But one of the cool details, should we try to get in here? All right, cool view. Okay, one of the details here is going to be exposed AC ducting. What I mean by that is we're gonna run, so there's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 vents that are going to come out, and they're going to be design cues. They'll be hard line. I think this is 2-inch tube. I think they're 2 1/4, and they're going to run up here like hard line plumbing, and we'll sand all the welds on them and everything. We'll make them streamlined. And then we're going to have little boxes, little aluminum upholstered pieces that have a vent, and they'll come up and they'll vent, and then you'll see, like, you know, other stuff where it runs like good symmetry, and it pops through, and then it has a little vent, you know. So you're gonna have this detail in here. You'll have full upholstery, and then you'll have this awesome little detail of like either these stainless lines, these hard lines going through that go into like upholstered little boxes with vents, or something of that nature. So we have to use design in our favor to get the packaging right, because it is so tight. This stuff looks pretty good too. See a root pass in there, and then you get the covers. This big void right here is open. That's going to be a removable service panel, this whole thing. So you come in here, you know, servicing the shocks, not a super consistent thing, but definitely have to take them off at times, and then for sure tuning with Keith, making adjustments. We'll probably have to do that 2 or 3 times. So you want to be able to get in here, and I want to have full access. So this whole piece right here will be a dimensional piece that comes off, and then we'll be able to get to tubes and everything. And then the same with the other side. You know, now that the body's on, you can kind of see what's going on. Same with this side. Am I shooting this right? Yeah, that side. That'll all be a removable piece too. I want to take you guys into the guts, but look at, there we go. That's pretty cool. So this spine, I'm gonna not talk and just try to navigate my way out of here again. The spine is gonna be a visual cue. What I mean by that is that's gonna not just get buried in the car. There will be sheet metal, you know, like it is, and then there'll be carpet, and this thing will protrude from the carpet, and there'll be a spatial, you know, area here. And then what we'll do is I'm gonna work with Dan and I'm gonna design a very custom dash that's got, you know, you can see where the cowl is, so a lot of the instrument panel will be up here. So even if it dives early, you're still gonna see this. And I want that to be, you know, a visual thing where you can feel the strength, the spine of the car showing through the upholstery. We are at the passenger rear. I'm gonna get on this bad boy. And we're gonna go into the magical land of under the car. There we go. All right. So, you can see our transmission mount, our nice sculpted piece that was on the table. That's installed into the car. You can see our TubeWorks underdrive. I'm having a yard sale. And then you can see what I'm talking about. So all this is built on the outside tangent of the chassis. It keeps everything streamlined. It keeps our cleanup down. You know, we're still favoring serviceability, and it's tough when you start blocking all this stuff in because it's just the same as the inside. You cover it all, and you got to really be accountable to how you get bolts in and out. And some of that has been a learning lesson for us, you know, throughout the cars. And each one gets a little better, and we start thinking about it more and more, and it just comes with time and experience. You know, I learned stuff the hard way, so, you know, whether we mess something up or we got to redo it or something, or we just learn every time with repeatability. We're out, so like just as a reference, you know, you can see like one of the trans mount bolts, we had to go early on the sheet metal to make sure we can get tooling in there, right? This is a channel through here. All this channel is so we can run all our hard line through here, and we can come out and we can go right through this hole. We didn't close all this off because we knew we were going to run hard line through here and around the side. You know, the other thing is like the bolts for the jacks. So, you know, I didn't want to have something where we were super tight to getting these holes, you know, and getting the jack location in there where we can still run tooling. So we have tooling here. If you look at the upper links over here, you know, same thing. There's provisions for us to get in there where we're not closing ourselves out. We've built it all in where we can get tooling in, because the other nightmare would be having to access bolts like a trailing arm bolt or an upper link bolt through the inside of the car. You don't want to have like another guy in there, okay, you grab this one, and he's like pulling back carpet and, you know, we're operating a ratchet or something, and then you're on the other side of this thing. We wanted to try to be where, you know, all the outside stuff was serviceable from the outside. You can see it here too. You know, same with the upper link in here. All this is closed out to be serviceable from the outside of the car. There's some pretty good stuff here. One of the things I really love, you know, Colin's turned into quite an expert here. I obviously do all the design, you know, I tell him how things need to look and where they need to go, but his skill set it's just grown. I really love the upper link clearance. You know, that big rolled area. You know, this guy goes in here, and you have to understand when this is the upper link, right? The driver's side. When these things are articulating The upper links are also, they're swinging a little bit. You know, if you looked at it from, like, say this is the front of the car and you're looking at the rear links, I can't spread my fingers the other way, but you get it, like they swing, you know, back and forth. And you have to have tolerances for that too, so you can't just build something really tight. And that's why it's tighter here, and then it spans wider towards the end. But you can see, like, and then now this is blocked off early. It doesn't go all the way out to the back wall of the car because the jack pump is a hydraulic system that we want to keep outside the car. And then over here, you can't see the tank on here, but the, you know, the dry sump oil tank is located back here, and that's an obvious thing we don't want living in the car. Same with its lines and everything. So we've really provided a little capsule of sheet metal here to seal things off. There's another detail I think I can get to from here. All right. I hope it focuses. So we have closeouts in the shock mounts, you know, where this like support piece, we favored still having some of this exposed, you know, to the outside, but we didn't sink everything back where we couldn't clean again. We don't want to get in that deficit where we're having to wrap around the tube. So all this will get welded silicone bronze. This area here, this is, you know, this sheet metal is going to have to get some kind of a secondary seal or a gasket to seal up where the jack system goes all the way up into the B pillar up there. But this is what I want to show you. I really like this bead roll area where the roll actually runs through the chassis, and it you know, the chassis interrupts it, but it doesn't divert the layout. So really happy with how this is under here. You can see some of the panels under the floor. So, you know, this is your floorboard inside, and they're raised, right? So they're not directly on the bottom of the tube. So that makes the welding easier, and it also makes it accessible for a skid plate under here. If anything ever happens and you dent part of like the 1/4-inch skid plate, there's not going to be big dents and changes inside of the car, you know. Same with this tunnel here, and then it's wide open for plumbing in there. See if we can get over there. We're already under here. So you'll see the cavity in here. This upper portion, this triangle up here is where I drew for all the bulkhead for the AC. So that'll come out here, and all these groups of hardline, they're gonna shoot over here, and they're gonna go towards the front of the car. And they're gonna be able to disperse themselves how they need to. You know, meanwhile, hardline will be able to run through here. You know, I think the water line will be on the other side, but you know, the oil lines, will all be through here, and the fuel lines will be through here, and they'll be hardline, and they'll be able to run right where they need to. This is for you guys. I am going to invest super heavy into taking you guys on a ride with me, building the day car. I know we've talked about content, fab diaries, this, that, and the other. What makes sense to me is the highest level of work that I produce, and it's that Range Rover. And so what I'm gonna do here is this is gonna be you guys, and you guys are gonna be right here with me. And every time I go over there and I'm working on that car, you're gonna work on it with me. So this is our Duke episode. Thank you, JMR. This is our PRI intro. Welcome, JMR. Welcome, Duke, to PRI. It's the second car we've had at PRI. It's all the way in Indianapolis, Indiana. We didn't get to talk about the headers, but when we get back and we do the next update, we're gonna have a lot more of header to show you. So I hope you enjoyed this. Have a great day.